Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to talk about ship categorization. Before we get into that, I just want to say right at the top of this video, thank you guys for all the support on the videos. You guys have been liking and subscribing and commenting, and it really means a lot to me. I just like talking about the game. So if you guys like talking about the game, you know, you're in the right place. So now let's get into this video. So on my last video, I talked about exploration ships, okay? And a lot of people brought up a lot of good suggestion in the comments. Now, one of the ships that I missed was the 300, the 315p. And I'm actually surprised that I missed that ship because in the video I talked about the 200 series. There was this conversation with people in the community about CIG making a ship class in between the 300 and the 400, a kind of Cutlass competitor uh, in line with the C1 as well. I think this is kind of a very attractive ship category for a lot of people because it's not so entry level, but it's also not so unattainable. It's also a multi-role ship, so you could do a lot of different things with it. I think this kind of category, the Cutlass, the C1, the Zeus, this is a really interesting category for a lot of people because they feel like they could get the most out of the game with this category. It's not too expensive that they couldn't just jump right in and buy a ship package or with that ship outright. Most games cost about $100 right now, and that's kind of the range where the Cutlass and the C1 and the Zeus is $100 to $150. I think for most people, that kind of price range is something that they can stomach to try out a really, immersive AAA game. But I really wanted to talk about the ship categories because of the way Star Citizen is designed as a game. So, as a space game, it's kind of unique because CIG very early on decided to go with this ship specialty kind of design, this kind of game design. Whereas in a lot of other space games, you have a more modular focused ship design. So I kind of see it as a spectrum. So you have space games like Space Engineers, which is 100% build. Then you have something like Starfield, which is building with modules. And then you have something like Elite Dangerous, where they have kind of special ships, but within those special ships, there are different modules that you could change out. And then you have Star Citizen, which is kind of like that. There are some ships like the Galaxy and the Carrack and the Endeavor and even the Retaliator that have modularity built into it. But then you have these specialized ship categories where the ship has a dedicated gameplay loop, and you acquire that ship to engage with that dedicated loop. This is ships like the Prospector and the Vulture, and the SRV. These ships are kind of designed around an intended way to play, and they really can't do anything else. So what this does is it creates clear and defined categories of use cases for these different ships. Okay, so there are also kind of variations into how strict these categories are. There are, again, modular ships that have, flexible gameplay. Then there are multi-role ships that have flexible gameplay, but they're not as good as a dedicated version of that ship. And then, of course, you have the dedicated ships, the, dedicated fighters, carriers, like we've talked about. We've covered, carriers and industrial ships and exploration ships. And in the next video I'm going to do, I want to talk about multi-role ships. But before I do that, I really want to make this video to kind of talk about the categorizations and how I'm slowly seeing them change. Okay, so I kind of feel like when this game started its development, CIG had a philosophy for the way the ships were going to be used and the way the players were going to interact with them. And over the years, that has slowly developed. And CIG is now kind of having the interesting task of going through and I I would say creating standardizations for ships. These are things like attachable and detachable components. These are things like weapons racks, suit lockers, things that okay, now the tech is online, we can add them to the ships, but more importantly, the gameplay is now available there for the players to utilize these ships with. Okay. One thing that we talked about as well in that last video was escape pods. A feature of an exploration ship is that you might get yourself in a sticky situation, and at that point you want to save your character, you want to jettison them from the wreckage of the ship in the event that the ship is inoperable or something like that. So I think obviously there are going to be certain aspects, some ships that CIG are going to have to update, and we know this that with the engineering gameplay loop, that there are definitely some ships that are going to need more heavy reworks than others. But it really comes down to now, when you look at a ship that is being released, what are the features? What are the things? What are the boxes that need to be checked off to allow us to consider this thing in that category of ship? Some ships that people suggested in that last video that could be contained in the Explorer category were ships like the Endeavor and the Terrapin. And I think that that makes sense. Also, the Galaxy was another one, okay? And the Galaxy is one of those ships that I think is an interesting competitor for the Carrack and the Odyssey and the 600i. That kind of class of ship. And you might say, okay, on paper, all of these ships are very different. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later in the video. But for right now, the way the game is played, and again, on paper, we could say these ships are X, Y, and Z, but how do we use them in the game? How does CIG intend us to use them in the game? That's kind of what we want to look for. Okay, it checks off these boxes. And so I have the C1 up here, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit before I move on to ships like the Galaxy and the Carrack and Endeavor. I do again want to make those comparisons, and we'll get into that. But I kind of want to start off with the C1 because I think the question here about if the C1 is truly a cargo ship or is it an explorer. Okay, so let's think critically here about what makes a ship an exploration ship based on the features that other exploration ships have. Okay, C1 has a walk-in cargo area. Okay, typically exploration ships have the ability to carry a vehicle. So this walk-in cargo area is an area where you can park a vehicle, the ROC, the STV, the PTV, hover bikes, whatnot. Okay, so that is one feature of an exploration ship that you want to be able to have. You want to be able to park a ground vehicle in the ship. That's one checkbox. Okay. The next thing that you want for an exploration ship is, uh, weapons rack. Okay, just basically every ship now that's coming out has weapons rack. So that's not too much of an exploration feature, but it's something you definitely want to have. The next thing is an environmental suit locker. Okay, so the Spirit C1 comes with 2 environmental suit lockers for both crew members. Okay, this is something that a lot of cargo ships right now don't have, but it's one of those features that I think that CIG wants to make ubiquitous across the lineup. So you can be ready for different environments. I do think it's a feature that should be more exclusive to exploration ships, because more than likely you're going to have your different loadouts as a part of the gear that you bring up from your cargo elevator. So to have multiple suits on your ship for that mission seems like something that somebody who is more interested in exploration gameplay might do. Because if you're a combat player, again, you're not going to have multiple suits in your fighter ship. You're going to be in like a flight suit because you're going to do dogfighting. Right now, people will take a Hornet or an Avenger or a Gladius to a bunker, whereas realistically, you're just going to be in a regular flight suit. Whereas in the bunker, you might want heavier armor. And in the future, the way that CIG is going to change things is that it's going to be difficult to wear heavy armor in a fighter. So you might actually want to take a ship like this where you can fly in your flight suit and then put on your heavy armor set and go down into the bunker. So combat exploration, I think an environmental suit locker where you can have your secondary loadout is a good feature of an exploration ship. Okay. Another major feature of an exploration ship, I would say, is that escape pod bed. Okay, so it's one of those things that the C1 has as well. So there's something that we talked about in the Constellation series. A lot of people, said down in the comments that yes, the Constellation does have escape pods, that its beds are escape pods, and I believe the Freelancer as well. The Freelancer beds are escape pods. The only one that didn't have escape pods, I believe, was the Corsair. Okay, but that's one of those things that you're probably more than likely going to want to have in an exploration ship. Okay, escape pods. Another thing, kind of like a quality of life feature that I'm still not sold on its usefulness, but the C1 does have that ship tractor beam for cargo. Again, the larger dedicated handheld tractor beam tool is so capable. I think that most people are going to use that over the ship dedicated tractor beam, because you look at the Spirit series and it can hold 64 SU of cargo. You're really only moving two 32 SU cargo boxes with that tractor beam. If you're going to stack a bunch of boxes, you want to have a bit more precision with that. And the ship mounted tractor beam is not as precise as using the dedicated handheld tractor beam tool. So I've played around with it a little bit in game because I have a C1, and when the handheld tractor beam came out, I did some testing with that, and it just seemed more efficient to use the handheld tractor beam tool. Okay, so in my personal opinion, I think the C1 is a little too small of a ship and has a little too small of a cargo area to really take full advantage of a ship mounted tractor beam tool. Uh, Another ship that has it is the Nomad. Again, I'm glad that they've added it to ships like that, but you're really just going to want to use that dedicated handheld tractor beam tool. So you look at another ship that has a handheld tractor beam, or that has a ship mounted tractor beam tool, and that is the 315P. Okay. And I think that, we look at the 315P. Okay. So I'll bring it up here. Okay. And I'm not going to compare these two ships directly, but I'm going to compare their categorization. Okay. The C1 is categorized as a cargo ship. Okay. The 315P is categorized as an exploration ship. Okay. The 315P has more cargo than the other variants of the 300 series. The 315P has a tractor beam mounted at the front. The 315P does not have an escape pod. It does not have a suit locker. It does not have a area where you can park a vehicle inside. Okay. It does have a weapons rack. Okay. Has a bed to log out in, which is pretty necessary. A bathroom, creature comforts, for when hygiene comes out, and the fuel on it. Again, I'm not entirely sure what the fuel economy on the 315P is in comparison to the other 300 series ships. Generally, Origin is pretty fuel efficient, so it's hard to judge if it has added fuel economy. It does have good maneuverability, so you compare these two, you're probably going to want your exploration ship to have good maneuverability. But I don't think the 315P checks as much boxes as the C1. And the C1 is really more categorized as a cargo ship, and the 315P is more categorized as an exploration ship. When I think gameplay wise, the 315P makes kind of a better cargo ship in comparison with the other 300 series ship in the lineup. Okay, so you look at the other 300 series in the lineup. Again, it can carry the most cargo. It has a tractor beam. Then the standard 300 series that is categorized as an interceptor. That makes sense. Then you have the racing variant and the fighter variant. And again, the 315P is the explorer variant. But I think it kind of makes a better cargo variant. But you look at the standard cutter and the cutter Rambler, which is the exploration variant of the cutter. You can see it has a bit less cargo than the other variants. Again, you take something like the Zeus. The Zeus ES has less cargo than the Zeus CL. So the exploration variant of the 300 series has more cargo than the non-exploration variant, which you would think the non-exploration variant would have more cargo and the exploration variant would have less cargo. So that's kind of what I mean when I talk about the categorization standards in CIG's ship lineup slowly evolving. So I think moving forward, what CIG wants to do with ships is kind of set these standards. These ships will have these things, and we're seeing the players use these ships in these ways. Okay. Again, I'm not saying the 350P is not an exploration ship. I want to make that clear. It is absolutely an exploration ship. I forgot it in my original video. That is my bad. That is my fault. Again, I talked about the 200i. I don't know how I forgot about the 315P. Okay, so I just think it's a very interesting discussion because we're gonna see ships coming out later that have this way that they're being developed. Okay, where the categories are becoming a little bit more defined. Okay, so the next ships that I kind of want to talk about and compare, of course, the larger exploration ships. Now, a lot of people said, hey, throw the Galaxy in there with the exploration ships. And again, we bring up the categorization of these ships. What does the Galaxy have that would make it a good exploration ship? Okay, so let's kind of go through it a little bit here. So the Galaxy has a medical module. The Galaxy has a cargo module. The Galaxy has a refining module, and the Galaxy will have a base building module. So those are 4 modules that we know of CIG implementing. The base building module isn't currently purchasable or wasn't purchasable along with the other 3, but it was kind of revealed at CitizenCon that CIG intends to make one. So we're just kind of saying that it's safe to say that the Galaxy will have that, as of course they'll need that tier in the base building gameplay loop where players don't have to spend as much money as getting a Pioneer or work their way up to a pioneer in game, that there is a progression to that gameplay loop. So the Galaxy has a lot of amenities. Okay, the Galaxy has uh, uh, the ability to carry a ground vehicle if you have uh, the cargo module, if you have the medical module, or the refining module. All three of these modules have an elevator. We don't know if the base building module has an elevator, has a cargo grid elevator. Now, all three of these elevators are different sizes. So the largest cargo elevator is going to be in the cargo module. The medium cargo elevator is going to be in the medical module, and the smallest cargo elevator is in the refining module. Okay, I don't know the exact metrics or sizes of all of these elevators. I'm kind of just going based off the images that CAG has shown of these modules. Okay, so if you don't have any of these modules installed, there is no cargo elevator that goes to the ground from the Galaxy. So that's kind of, uh, I don't want to say a point deduction, because it does have that ability to carry a ground vehicle that a good exploration ship should have, in my opinion. But it does if you have those modules installed. The second thing is a ship hangar. Now, the 600i does not have a ship hangar for a snub, but in the rework, the vehicle elevator, that cargo elevator, would be large enough to hold a few snubs on it. So if it could fit the Nova tank, it should be able to fit a couple of P-52s, and a couple of Furies, snub fighter type ships that you could take out as you're exploring a planet. Now, a dedicated hangar is of course preferable with this class of exploration ship, but I don't think it's as necessary, because we really don't know what dedicated hangars offer over a general space where you can park a ship. Now, this is something I talked about in my carrier ship video, where I kind of speculated if CIG would add the functionality to refuel the ship in the hangar with the main ship's fuel tanks through some type of hose. But if it is a, you know, external refueling system like a fuel can, then you don't really need a hangar to support a ship. I think that right now, there doesn't seem to be any particular benefit to having a dedicated hangar over, a large enough cargo grid that can hold a spaceship. Another thing that a lot of people brought up in my carrier ship video was they suggested the M2 and the C2, because those are vehicle transport ships. Even though they're not dedicated or classified as carriers, the player base uses them right now to transport vehicles and carry small enough ships that can fit in it. You can fit, a few Pisces, you can fit a lot of Furies, you can fit, Merlins. So if you could fit these ships and vehicles in this other ship, it is a carrier. And again, I think CAG's kind of loosed on those categories. This is a pocket carrier. They said that in their video about the Fury MX, where they had this video of a bunch of Furies flying out of a caterpillar. And I think that's a response from the community, because CIG saw the way that the community was using this snub fighter, because it's small, it doesn't have landing gear, it can, park in different places, it even folds up to become even smaller. CIG saw the community using this ship that way, parking several of them in the caterpillar, and it turned the caterpillar into a pocket carrier. You can carry several Furies in a caterpillar just because this game is physicalized. Okay, it's not a game where it says you can't do that. So the player base goes out and they tries to see what they can do. And I don't know if in law the people in this universe would use these ships in that manner, but you know, at the end of the day, this is a game. Why not? I personally think in law, you know, the people in this universe would use a C2 as a carrier. You know, it has uh, good defenses, pilot control guns. It is very maneuverable for its size. You compare the C2 with its size to just about any other ship that size. It's so much more maneuverable than you would assume a ship this large that is capable of moving this much, you know, would be able to do. And so I think it is a great addition to the carrier category. So you know what? I don't want to drag out this video too long, but I think it's an interesting conversation. Again, I do think that the Galaxy would make a good exploration ship. It's just one of those things that right now, I think CIG is just categorizing it as a multi-role ship. But I think the categorization is even more interesting for ships like the C1 and the 315P, because the C1 would make a great exploration ship, and I think the 315P would make a good cargo ship. But in reality, they're the opposite. The C1 is the cargo ship, and the 315P is the exploration ship. Let me know what you guys think about this topic in the comments down below. Do you think CIG should, you know, release some type of rule book for what categorizes a ship? Do you think they should make new standards for how they develop ships moving forward and categorize them that way? I want to hear your thoughts on this in the comments down below. I assume that we're going to be getting a lot of new ships this year, and of course, the ship talk is always very interesting to me as a third crafter. They're so integral to the game, and again, the way Star Citizen is designed, the ship's specialities are, you know, really what sets in my opinion, this game apart from other space games. You know, whereas in other space games, your ships are a lot more modular. In Star Citizen, your ships are so much more specialized. I think that is, you know, a very immersive aspect of this game, and it helps you develop a greater connection to these ships in that way. But yeah, that's going to be it for me here today, you guys. In the next video, I want to talk about multi-role ships, keep this conversation going. I think it's a fun topic. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But like I said at the end of all of these videos, you guys, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Salute.